Welcome back, Generals, to another Let's Fix Generals 0 Hour to make the best game ever. Good, so last session we did look into into the heat haze effect a little bit more. We did not yet quite understand what actually is a problem. Before we continue with that, let me see what's new here. Let's see. I can see how the message inside would have caused issues, but I think a few places can be cleaned up a bit due to the way the ref pointers work. This call to set the dirty flag is necessary since remove all is only ever being used during object destruction. It appears to serve as a documentation. JBI has put it there. EA guy. Yes, this is necessary. If the group, if remove all is not called, then the group will live on with its members. And CSC will mismatch. M dirty true. Let me check that. Is that necessary? Remove all. Let me see. Dirty false. Yeah, it's a good question. What does it actually do? AI group, M dirty. Dirty. So if we add, it sets it to dirty. If we remove, recompute. What does that do? Recompute. If dirty, compute ground path. Recompute. If we have no member, what happens then? So it will delete the ground path and set the speed to infinite, pretty much. Yeah. I don't know what he means here. This flag, this boolean, is used in that. And get speed. I think it is inconsequential to call. I think it is inconsequential to call this in remove all, but technically, I think this is the right thing to do because it makes it consistent with makes it consistent with AI group remove, which also sets mdirty on every removed member, including the last one. So removing all individual members or all at once will set mdirty in the same state. Set mdirty to the same state, which, yeah. But technically, this is the right thing to do because it makes it consistent with what group remove does, which also sets mdirty true on every removed member, including the last one. So removing all individual members, or once we set mdirty true. Removing all individual via remove all, or all at once, or all in one go via remove all, will set mdirty true. I would not change this. Mm-hmm. Anything else? Let's see. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. Mm-hmm. Good. What else? Mm-hmm. Set correct fix CSC for 0 hour. Should we maybe change the version string to something like version 1.0.4 sh? Once people will start playing this fork or something that forks this, right, it would be nice to see in the replay header that it wasn't a retake client that generated the replay. That's a good point. Mm-hmm. So, yes, we need additional versioning on top of the game versioning. There already is a task for it. Okay, this one is reasonable. Yeah, if not debug, if any of those defines a set, the field won't require. Do you but this compatibility is this is the RTS debug I can see. The RTS debug / RTS internal is the RTS debug, RTS internal incompatibility permanent. I was under the impression that it is just temporary. Anyway, I think we can do that in different change. Can do that in another follow-up change then. Can do that in another follow-up change. Yeah, it's not directly linked to this change. Yeah. I think I can also do the 3 enum changes in a separate PR, and then it's enough. Okay. 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 Okay, there was also work on this one. Okay. I agree that it's a bit strange, but I intend to customize initialize with a command line. For that to work, I will need some function that lazy initializes the global data. Lazy initializes. Command line. Command line. Global data. It's because because command line code interacts with the global data very early. Because command line code interacts with the global data very early and needs access. Okay, then I think the lazy init does make sense. Then you can remove that detail from the function name. It just makes it so long. Maybe just put that in a separate function that the parse command line function calls. And call it something like lazy init global data. And client instance can be created very, very early. Maybe and explain in a comment why that is required. Okay, let me see the changes in engine init. This is much better. Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, this also, yeah, makes sense. Okay, it looks much better, yeah. Much better. What about the load mods though here? Oh, it's here, outside. Okay, that's good. That's good. Yeah, this looks much better. I would just prefer now that this one is moved into a separate function and explains why this is called. Like just put here lazy init global data on this call. Yeah, I think then it's good. And this function name is a bit too long here. Just pass initial command line. I think that's good enough then. Everything that is not drafts, I think. Okay, good. Then okay, let's get back to our problem here. Good. So let's get back to our smudge. Yeah. Good. So Yeah. So where do we go from here? So we have like a suspicion as to what is going on, right? So either it fails when it draws something that is less than the max smudge draw size, or when it is the first one, right? One of these, the first smudge. Index buffer being used only references vertices that actually exist. Yeah. I don't know what he's on about here with the start index. That doesn't help. Print the first 12 indices in the static index buffer and check whether any of them are greater than or equal. I wonder what happens if we do this here. Release resources. Reacquire. How about we call this function before we do this stuff here? Here. How about we call reacquire resources just to see if like a refresh of like the index, the index buffer, if that changes anything. Probably not, but at this point, I take any clues. Okay, so we zoom in. No, it doesn't fix it. No, okay, so that doesn't change anything. So refreshing here, reallocating, that doesn't change anything. Okay. Is there anything specific about this index buffer class? Like, can it have any, like, there can be different usage types. Usage default. How is this typically used? Usage dynamic. Usage dynamic. What happens if we put it on dynamic? Would that change anything? Let's just try. Try and error. I have no clue. No, doesn't change anything. Okay, so it's not that. Okay, what else could it be? Define the color. Why is that a define? Okay, what else can we try? Okay, so we know the vertices are there, everything's there, everything works correctly. It's only something gets lost in the first call or in an incomplete call, the first one. Or the one that is smaller than the limit. But why? I suspect I think it's most likely that it's the first call. Right? It's probably the first call. Can we see like cases where if it turns off, to me it looks like if there was one call, can we somehow force a call? Okay, what happened with this call? Oh, it's already outdated. Okay. What could be the reason here? Okay, so vertex count is smaller than 3, so it goes in here, and then it's... Can we unoptimize this place? Pragma optimize off. Oh, sorry. Okay, so what does this do? What? Vertex buffer types 4, 4. 1, 4, 4, 4, 4. What? Zero, 2, 1, 3. Man, there's the nested switches here. Jesus. Doesn't make it easier. Aha, buffer type invalid. Okay. Okay, actually, hold on. That's interesting. Ah. Right, it didn't set a vertex buffer yet. Let's see. Okay, what if we put it behind here? Remove that. this stuff. Okay, let's go in here. Render state VBA count. How? Yeah, that's weird. It's like, I suspect this is like a convenience code where you say, okay, we pass 0, and then it automatically selects it for you, depending on the vertex buffer. Looks like it, yeah. But the polygon count is 0 now. That's weird. Yeah, doesn't help. Polygon count. Vertex count. Vertex. Vertex count. Boah. This is a problem I don't understand. Why would the GPU say that we don't want to draw this the first time? Why? Why? And it seems that if we have 2 draw calls, then it's fine even for the first call, right? So to me it looks like when it calls and it draws all of them correctly, maybe there's some problem with like the index buffer and the vertex buffer. They have different initial sizes. What if we created this VB thingy that with the same size as the so we created with the same size as the index buffer always. Would that work? I really have no ideas here. No, changes nothing. That's okay. What else can we try? Any other ideas? We just need one clever idea. one clever idea. Man. I have another idea. What if we say, let's see what happens if we only issue one. We only issue one. Only one badge, regardless of how big it is. Just one. So that would be like 50 in there, right? Can we then see those 50 guys or not? If we don't see the 50 guys, the 50 smudges, then it means it's a first. It's a first. Yeah. Yeah, it's a first. Okay. I can now confirm that it only fails. I can now confirm that it only fails if there is just one badge going to draw triangles. As soon as there are more than one, everything works correctly, including the first one. There's just one. Including the first batch. Excellent. That confirmation clinches it. The problem is not with the draw logic per se, but with GPU state that only gets corrected on the second draw call. What this strongly suggests, if only the first batch fails when it is the only batch, but works fine when any second draw calls follows it, the first draw leaves the pipeline in an invalid or incomplete state, or some state required for the renderer isn't fully initialized until a second draw is issued. This points to uninitialized or stale render state, GPU state changes not being flushed, lazy init in the engine or driver, only triggering after the second draw, incorrect or missing render target viewport scissor setup, invalid blending Z buffer configuration. Oof. Vertex index buffer not fully set or bound. Make sure the vertex buffer is properly locked unlocked before the draw. You're not reusing stale dynamic VBIB data. What does that mean, stale? Stale dynamic. The full vertex count is being respected. The full vertex count. You're using apply render state changes, but it's possible the internal flags tracking state changes aren't marking anything dirty. Since there's just one draw, try explicitly forcing a call. Well, we can check if there's anything missing on apply render state, but try toggling in no op. Harmless, pointless. Validate device. Validate device. Is that a function? Oh, it is. Okay, and when should we call this? Right after the batch. Right after the batch. Okay. Okay, so how about we put that here? Validate device. Num passes? What the hell is that? Direct x8 validate device. Draw primitive point list. Harmless. Okay, let's try that. Okay, so the issue really is only if we have one batch to draw, it doesn't work. As soon as we have two or more, everything just works fine, including the first one. And we can confirm this now with our observations. That's really interesting. Very interesting. And worrying as well. Oh, that works. Huh. Huh. Wow. That works. Well, that's wild. How does that work? Jesus Christ. Okay. So I can confirm that calling that at the end of the batch avoids the issue. What does this do? Why does it avoid the issue? Excellent. Incomplete or delayed GPU pipeline state, validation of flushing, and the dummy is forcing DirectX to commit or finalize the current render state and draw core. What does it do? This line tells DirectX draw 1 point starting from vertex 0 using the current bound vertex buffer. If that vertex buffer doesn't contain a valid point at index 0, that's fine. One point starting from vertex 0 using the currently bound vertex buffer. if that vertex buffer doesn't contain a valid point at index 0, that's fine because points are not visible. There's no crash. Commit the previous draw call. GPU to flush. Lazy state validation. Defers fully preparing or validating the GPU pipeline. Explicitly reapplied key GPU state before the smudge door. Reapply key GPU state. Texture stages are initialized. Call validate device before the draw. Okay. Okay, let me check that then. So he suggests to set this. Okay, so let's say we call here dx8 wrapper. Apply render state changes, right? Because that's what draw triangles will do. And then we check validate device. Validate device. Okay, what does that do? Okay, so dummy 1. Okay, what does that mean? Failure code. Validate device. Validate device. H results. Okay. Okay, what is value 1? Where are we? I will first say yes. I remember he already suggested this. Oh, well, it's a bit more than that. I will try later. I checked calling validate device before calling draw triangles. Before calling the first draw triangles, and it returns value 1. What does that mean? Return value 1 means okay, the device in a valid state to render. Even though it's defined as 1, this is still a successful result. This normally indicates success. The device believes it can correctly render the current pipeline state. However, validate device only checks that the current texture and render state setup is valid for the current pixel and vertex shaders. It does not validate whether vertex index buffers are actually filled correctly, whether the geometry will produce visible output, any logic error in your draw call, or your render state assumptions. The fact that the GPU may skip a minimal batch, your original issue. In your case, since validate device returns 1, you don't have a critical state error, but it doesn't mean the GPU will actually render your first batch. This is why drumming call causes GPU to wake up. It's a correct way to formalize that workaround. Okay, let me just try that then. My expectation is that it doesn't work. Yeah. Okay, so we remove this one here. We add a new function, this one. Okay. Get save texture. What the hell is that? Okay. Let's go with that for now. And then call this this way. Okay. So let's call this here at the very start. Here. Render state sanity, and we're good to go. There we go. Okay, let's try that. Yeah, this one is, I think, set. Yeah. Okay, let's remove our workaround here from the bottom as well. And this here. And this. This workaround works. Jesus. Very interesting. Okay. Okay, that doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Let me see if it works in principle at all by removing this hack here. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't fix it. Okay. It still works in principle, but it doesn't fix the issue. Let me say I tested that and it did not prevent the issue. This is very likely a GPU command batching deferred execution quirk in DirectX 8, where the first draw call after setting up your state does not cause the driver to actually emit a draw. Batch being too small or deemed a no-op, vertex index buffer content not yet logged or flushed, implicit pipeline optimization, skipping early batches, a second draw call forced the driver to commit previous commands, making the first batch show up. This was a known issue in some older Direct 3D8 drivers, especially on certain GPUs, old ATI or Intel. And my graphics card is not that old. It's maybe 6 years, 7 years old. Save dummy kick. Since you've confirmed fixed it, the simplest, most notable solution is to formalize this workaround into your rendering pipeline. Needs kickoff. What is that? One dummy point draw to kick the pipeline into gear. Try flushing the driver manually before your first draw call. This has no functional effect, it's a dummy op, but could trigger the driver to begin actual submission. By the way, I would like to see, where are we in the render scene here? Render, scene render. Is this like the last thing that is being rendered in the scene? Could that be? It's, yeah, it's pretty much down here, yeah. So the smudge is the last here behind the snow manager. Yeah, do particles. Okay. Flush render info, yeah. Sorting render class flush. Draw sorted translucent polys. Do particles. Yeah, okay, so it's the last thing. The smudge is the last thing to render in the scene. And then afterwards, after the scene render, there is a flush. What does that do? Mesh renderer flush. Flush. Okay, so force divert. What is this? Flush the driver manually. Use your dummy workaround as a reliable workaround. I mean, if the workaround works and it just avoids the issue, then maybe that's good enough. I still don't understand why it happens. Okay, so he says, before your first draw, call this. Okay, let's do that. Let's put this at some strategic location, like here maybe. Okay. And crash. Oof. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Huh. 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 So that crashes. Oh, okay. Mm. Okay, well, then we don't do that. Okay, so what we can do is we can say if there was just one batch, mm, you say int smudges batch count equals 0. And then here we say here we say smudges batch count equals plus plus. Hold on, now we can do it simpler. We can here flush smudges. Then here we do plus plus smudges batch count. And then we say if smudges batch count is 1, draw primitive start vertex primitive count is 1. Start vertex primitive count. Pointless. Primitive. Yeah, stop. Can we maybe call this with a draw what is wrapping draw primitive then? DX8 wrapper. Nothing. Okay. Nothing is calling draw primitive? What is that? Draw primitive. Does a draw primitive draw anything then? No, in your case, the call to that does not draw anything visible, assuming you haven't set up any vertex buffer with actual point data at index 0. Set a vertex buffer with valid data and set up shade as render state. Well, if we call this right after drawing the smudges, doesn't it Does that not mean that it will use the vertex and index buffer that was used for the last draw, for the last smudges draw? The primitive does not use an index buffer at all. It's not index draw call, so the current bound index buffer is ignored. Vertex buffer, yes, it uses a currently bound vertex buffer starting at index 0. If you didn't call set stream, it's still bound to the vertex buffer used for the smudges. But that's harmless, as the call is drawing a single point, one vertex, and the shader likely culls it or doesn't process it meaningfully. X is a flush. Okay. Completely safe. Okay. Let's take his word for it. Okay, how do we describe this change then? Force flush, something. Okay. Right, so super hackers add bug fix. Today is 15/06/2025. Draw dummy points with the last vertex buffer to force the GPU to flush all current pipeline state and commit the previous draw call. Draw dummy points with the last vertex buffer to force the GPU to flush all current pipeline state and commit the previous draw call. This is necessary. Otherwise, this is required for some AMD models and drivers that refuse to flush a single draw call for the smudges. Okay, so basically if the smudges batch count is 1, and only then we need to flush it. If the batch count was 2, then this was not necessary. Now the problem is here we access this private, so to say, member, which we probably shouldn't do. Can we issue this draw primitive without accessing the device? What is this doing? It looks like there's no there's no direct wrapper for this, so I guess then we just do it this here for now. Yeah. Okay. This call is invisible and harmless. It just acts to nudge the GPU. Good. Then let me see. We touched now a bunch of stuff here. Let me revert this stuff here. Then we also delete this here. Then we reset this one. Smudges batch count 0. The apply render state changes we also don't need because the draw already does that. So we will remove all these. Then we reset this one. We also don't need that. Oops. I don't know what that is. Okay. Then we delete all this here and this here. Okay. And the draw we can probably also put back to 500, right? Make sure smudge draw size times 12. That's a max index buffer size. Okay, so 500 times 12 is like 6,000, yeah. Okay, then we put that back to 500 and we put a static assert for that times 12 is smaller than that. That is the max index buffer size. Must not exceed the max index buffer size. Okay. We can put a okay. Then let's test that. No. Skirmish. Yeah. It works. Yeah. Now, will that also avoid the black screen issue? I don't know. I don't know. I remember we were able to reproduce it when we added a, let me see, when we added, we were able to reproduce it when we had added here a cull mode, cull CCW, right? We said that, and then we were somehow able to reproduce it, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see that. Yeah, there's some blackness, but it's not as pedantic anymore. Huh. Oh, there we go. Yeah. It does happen. Okay. Where does this happen? Why does this happen? No idea. No clue why this would cause this issue if we set the cull mode to that. If we set the cull to none, what happens then? Cull to none looks okay. Okay. What happens if we set it to CW? I have no clue why this flickering occurs. It's really weird. Yeah. That also works. Let me ask ChatGPT about this. Before the smudges draw, when I set CCW, then the screen flickers black. The 3D world, the 3D scene flickers black when I put CW or none or none. Then everything looks okay. Why is that? The winding order backface cuttings are the root of the issue. Counterclockwise triangles, assuming clockwise winding is front facing. Clockwise triangles. Ah, I see. Disable face cutting, everything is drawn. Is this Cal anywhere set here? This here CCW. Let me see. Invert back face culling. Is this ever called? No. It is. Render mirror. Water. Water. Okay. Okay, but if this is never... Actually, let me see. Let's put a breakpoint in here. Shader. Pragma. Optimize off. Okay, let's remove this. If it's never called, then there's nothing to worry about, I guess. No, it's not called. Okay, good. Then, yeah, I think that's our workaround. I have nothing better in store because I still don't understand like the exact nature. Maybe it's a driver bug. I mean, we know that it doesn't happen on all machines, right? So it doesn't happen on NVIDIA cards, as far as I'm aware. It happens on AMD and also not on all AMDs. It happens on my machine. Oh, that's helpful. I just hope that it also avoids a black screen issue. That I can't reproduce right now, the black screen. But yeah, this seems to work. Yeah. 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 Okay, cool. Then let me clean up this change. We reset this. Reset this. Okay. Okay, I will revert this one here. Good. Yeah. Then I will create a branch. Fix smudge. Yeah, fix smudge effects. I think this is only in 0 hour, right? The smudge doesn't exist in generals, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Smudge. W3D smudge. Yeah, it's 0 hour only. Okay. Okay. 0 hour. Fix. Let me see. We have a bug report for this, right? Issue reports, smudge, microwave. I think we should probably also create a. Let me stop the music here. Let me get fraps. Fraps, yeah. Oof. Let me create a video. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I make a video, we just look at it, that's it. Okay, and then we make another video with a bug. Okay, so this one fix. How's the bug called? Heat haze, right? Caused by microwave tank with heat effect enabled. Okay, then how do we describe this? Fix bugged heat smudge W3D smudge. What is it called? W3D smudge. Smudge or heat haze effects of the USA microwave tank. Fix the bugged smudge or heat haze effect of the USA microwave tanks for AMD GPUs. AMD GPU. Alright, let's not specify that. Okay. Good, and then let me go back to main branch. Then we compile once. We compile once with the status quo. Okay, then we zoom in on this one here. Okay. Fraps. Good, then we push that to the remote. fix a bug to smudge or heat haze effect of the USA. It's maybe call it smudge. Heat haze smudge. This is major bug fixes. Bug critical. Now I don't know if it will fix the black screen, but I hope it does. Yeah, and I hope it does it consistently on all machines and not just my machine. Maybe fixes that. This change fixes the bugged heat haze, aka smudge effects of the USA microwave tank, as far as I can reproduce it on my machine. I have an AMD. What is the card I have? AMD RX 590, I think. Is that a thing? AMD RX 590. I think so, yeah. I'm unable to reproduce the black screen portion of the issue, but I can reliably reproduce the missing effects. I figured that this only happens when there is just a single draw call. Man, that music sucks. That as well. That as well. This only happens when there's just a single draw call. When there's just a single draw call for the smudges. As soon as there were two, everything worked perfectly. I agreed with ChatGPT that perhaps this is some GPU driver issue that does not commit to a single draw call and needs some help to commit to it by issuing another dummy draw call when so required. In my tests, this avoided the issue. Before this change, original, this change. Okay, so this is a fix. Yeah, then we put it here. This change. And yeah. Original. Oh, I just realized we shouldn't have uploaded it like that, I think. How big is it? Oh, it's not that big. Okay, never mind. Never mind. Okay. After a lot of testing and trying different code changes, I figured that this only happens when there's just a single draw call for the smudges. As soon as there were two, everything worked perfectly. I agreed with ChatGPT that perhaps this is some GPU driver issue that does not commit to a single draw call and needs some help to commit to it by issuing another dummy draw call. We can only hope that it also fixes the black screen, unless we find a person that can reliably reproduce the black screen. Okay. Let me also clarify this here. I moved this call outside the above scope because that was within the lock of the vertex buffer, which did not appear to cause issues, but is technically not right. I removed this call because draw triangles already cause this as well. Therefore it is redundant. Okay. Yeah, that was quite some journey. I hope that this fixes the black screen. Maybe it does, maybe it does not. I can't tell, but it fixes a problem on my machine. Yeah. Good. Oof. Sifu. looks good. Overall, I would like to see cleaned up a bit, and it needs replication journals. As per comments above. Good. Then I will take a break here. I think it was productive. We have a workaround. I hope it's reliable workaround. I can't really tell. Yeah, it's a bit weird, but okay. It's old DirectX, new drivers. Who knows what is happening? All right, good. I will take a break here. I wish you a great day or night. Until next time. Goodbye.